Got some people here. It's nice to see some. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't totally remember how we launched. Are we live?
I think we are. Yeah.
My friend Matthew is here. I want to see all the people.
Yeah, look at this.
Cool.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen okay? I'm hoping. It should say cultivate your mindset for innovation.
We are so glad that all of you are here. This is such a great way to start the morning.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Donna and I could do this stuff for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So Flame, you might have to monitor the chat box or the chat if needed.
I'm on it. Yep.
Okay.
I can see other people.
You just let me know when we want to get started.
And we've got 3 minutes until 10, right? So we'll wait a little longer. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is 57 right now. I hope everybody's enjoying the conference. This is a new and incredible way to experience it, huh?
Certainly is. I admit this is my first digital conference. I've never been to one, and I've never presented at one, so fancy.
Let's see if I can advance my slides properly. Okay. That's us.
There.
Oops.
Oh yeah, and Maria's reminding us that if attendees want to double click Donna's shared screen, then you can enlarge the presentation so you can see it. Most of what we're going to do, actually, if you want to get out a piece of paper and a pencil,
yeah,
or pull up a Word document, we're going to actually do this very interactive, and you'll get to walk away with some free coaching. So the slides will be there to sort of reinforce what we're saying to you verbally, but mostly it'll be you with your piece of paper or your Word document, or however you want to capture what we're asking. Because we won't really be talking, but we will be interacting from us to you.
Sound good, everybody? Yay.
How many of you have ever worked with a coach before? How many of you already know what coaching is? Oh, Joyce had one in the past and has one now. Joshua does.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you know it's
That's
a powerful experience.
Yeah. Yeah, the short version is that a coach is someone who helps people maximize their personal and professional potential through a creative partnering process where we ask questions and reflect what we see.
And you get
Darby's been a coach for the past few months.
Mm-hmm. I think we should get going. What do you think?
Okay.
Okay, we have 45 minutes together, so we'll get started now. As you can see on my screen, I'm Donna King, and I'm here with Flame Schoeder, and we're your coaches here today. Flame and I are independent credential coaches who we team up to do a lot of trainings, online trainings together. And, we help people develop a coaching approach to leading and affecting positive change. And, one of the keys to enjoying work as a developer is really about solving problems and innovating new solutions. If you consider, companies like Uber, who has changed transportation industry, or Tinder, who has changed the dating industry, or the Apples of the world. These are all great examples. So today, what we want to do is take a look at how the human brain manages creativity, problem solving, and innovation. From a brain science perspective, our brains are designed to help us survive. And when we feel threatened in any way, our amygdala is activated and it sends us into this survival mode. Some of you might know what this fight, flight, or freeze feeling feels like. And these are all natural responses because they're hardwired responses that bypass our prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala in the back of our brain gets charged and hijacked. So it's a signal to help us survive and cope with whatever life offers us. So we are all human beings, and we have very, very real and normal responses to the triggers at work and at home. And especially right now with this pandemic happening, there's a lot of things impacting our lives. So we want to talk a little bit today about what happens to us when we react and are faced with threat. So I'm going to just move to my next slide here. So just take a moment. What is your reaction when you're faced with a threat? How does it show up in you? Why don't you just type in your default reaction? Is it fight? Is it flight? Or is it freeze? And we'll just fight. Procrastinate. Fight, freeze. Fight, freeze. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a freeze. What are you, Don?
Oh, I'm definitely a freeze.
Oh, and
sometimes I want to fly after that too. So yeah, it's
Joy said she thinks it depends on the situation, and some people do. You freeze because you don't want to fight, or you flight because you don't want to freeze.
Exactly. And what we find is, this mental experience makes it almost impossible for us to be creative, to innovate, or to solve problems effectively. When our efforts are focused on protecting ourselves in this survival mode, we really can't see situations clearly. We can't focus. Our minds aren't open to receive new ideas. And you know what? We don't always make the best decisions in our lives either. So what we find is that even makes it that much more difficult to work with people in constructive ways. So, what are the options to get out of our fight, flight, and freeze mode so we can cultivate a mind ready for innovation? What are ways to soothe the amygdala? Let's see here. Because sometimes when, we're faced with this threat, we go into our survival mode. We appear upset or worried. We get frustrated. We start doubting ourselves. We get defensive. Then we go into that blame mode sometimes, right? So what are some ways to soothe the amygdala? Any ideas? I've put on my screen here a couple of ideas. Meditation works for many people, or practicing mindfulness, or even starting a gratitude practice. Any other ideas? Well, coaching definitely. Someone wrote alcohol. Video games, a good way to soothe the amygdala, or a bad one. Exercise.
As long as it's intentional, then it's okay. Exercise is great. A gratitude practice, Ashwin, is when we take time each day to actually look at what we are grateful for, because we know that the brain is wired to be negative, and to actually choose to look at what we care about and what we're happy to have in our lives is an act of the human spirit. So anytime we do that. Oh, playing the guitar.
That's
Prayer. Absolutely. Sleep. Take a nap. Yes.
We need to sleep to clear our mind too. Mm-hmm.
Do yoga.
Music,
Yeah,
I love that. And yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And we say coaching.
We say coaching. Yeah, coaching helps us really observe what got us into that fight, flight, and freeze state and help you make choices more intentionally to move forward. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to guide you through a series of questions to help you reflect and gain some new perspectives. So like Flame said, if you can have a pen and paper available to jot down answers to our questions, that's going to be really helpful. Computer in front of you, you could do that too. So please, we're going to move fairly quickly here. So just write down what comes to mind first, okay? And then after that, we're going to open up some conversation. And this might include some one-on-one coaching for you too. But we'd love to hear how this process has impacted you. Before we get started, Flame, we're going to do another little activity to soothe the amygdala. Will you take us through that?
Of course. Because we know you guys have been, busy chatting with people and interacting this morning and getting into breakout sessions. And some of you are probably at home dealing with lots of other complexity there, or in the office dealing with other complexity there. So we'd like you to just take a minute and get centered. Put both feet on the ground. Really feel yourself sitting on the seat you're sitting on. Feel your back. Feel your legs. Shake your hands out a little bit. Take a couple deep breaths. And if you close your eyes. Because in the next couple of minutes, we're going to ask you to look at something that has been worrying you or bothering you or getting in the way of your good work as a developer, whatever your role is. And we want you to know that this is a safe place to do that. Not every place is safe, but right here, right now, all is well. And your world may be pulling on you, but just say to those things in your mind that are trying to get your attention, I'll be back. I'll be back in an hour and I'll start to take care of you. But for now, I'm just going to be here with Donna and Flame and take this time for myself. Take a couple more deep breaths. And now we're ready to start your guided coaching.
Okay.
Because the truth is, just choosing to come to a breakout session about coaching is actually an incredibly courageous act. The human brain likes things the way they are and doesn't really want to change. But something inside of you got you here. So good work. Our first question is to have you reflect on a time when you felt frustrated with your work recently, if you can. And we want you to ask yourself what bothered you the most and write it down. And we're going to give you a couple minutes because we want you to cough it all up on the page. No one else is ever going to see this page. And you don't have to tell us what it says. But it's important for you to tell the truth. What's giving you the most stress and tension? There's a lot going on even outside of work right now, obviously. Is there something about that that is having an impact on the situation as well? Write it all down. And be specific. See if you can really dial in what bothers you the most. What's the worst part about it for you? Are there any places where you feel stuck? Is this a pattern that keeps repeating itself? You might consider all of the 6 forms of energy: time, money, creativity, enjoyment, relationships, and your physical vitality. Are any of these being impacted? And you might even rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most frustrated you've ever been, and 1 being, nah, not at all. Where is it on that scale from 1 to 10? You're doing great. No one needs to know what you've written down on this page. Like I said, it's just for you to work through, because as your coaches for the next 30 minutes, we would love for you to have a breakthrough about this. Anyone need more time to write down what's frustrating? Okay. Question 2. What are you experiencing as you think about what frustrates you the most? Meaning, what sensations are you feeling in your body? What's the quality of your thinking? Quality of your energy? The quality of your emotional state? You can write down a few adjectives that just describe it, or you can write it out in paragraph form, whatever works. Just keep noticing what it's like to think about what frustrates you the most. Question 3. If there was an underlying message here that your body was trying to tell you, what is it? What is this experience telling you? It may be that your body or your energy are trying to alert you to something. If you were to listen to it, what is it trying to say? What's the wisdom in what this voice is telling you? Everybody have a good start on this? Any questions so far? So I know this situation has really been bothering you. But my question is, would it be okay with you if it were easier? Would it be okay to look at how that might be? Donna?
Okay. Everybody's doing great here. You've done a really wonderful job of exploring the things that are bothering you the most, the things that are frustrating you, and what your reaction is, your fight, flight, or freeze reaction. So let's shift to your prefrontal cortex now, where innovation lives. Specifically, what we want to do is take a look through the lens of your own personal values. Our values drive our behaviors, whether good or bad. And you know what? We long for our values to be demonstrated, and they often clear the path away from frustration to successful innovation. When we're frustrated, it means one of two things. A, there's something that you're currently doing that is not aligned with your values and you need to stop doing. Or B, there's something that you are not yet doing that you would be aligned with your values that you need to start doing. Okay? So, my next question is, what personal values come to mind as you observe your frustration? What we'd like you to do is write down 1 to 3 values that you hold at your core. Okay, now there might be some things that come to mind right away, which is great. And if you need a little prompt, we have a list of values here that you might want to tap into. So what 2 or 3 values stand out for you? Go ahead and take some time and write those down. Think about, does one of these open up possibilities to approach the situation with a new mindset? Perhaps one with a more innovative mindset? Okay, how's everybody doing? Does anybody need any more time? Okay, so now, what guidance does that value provide for your frustration? Think about it. How does it give you value? How does it give you power? How does it drive an action? How does it inform what is yours to do? Now take a moment, and what I'd like you to do is create 1 or 3 phrases or words of advice to apply to your situation. Okay? So an example of some guidelines or phrases, when this whole pandemic thing started, I had to do some deep thinking about my values. And the words of advice that I look to today are things like create hope, be connected, and stay focused. So what are yours? Just write them down. You don't have to share with anybody. And after you have 3 new guidelines written down, take a look at them. What will be different if you consistently followed your own advice? How's everybody doing? Any struggles here? You might be feeling a little unsure, but just remember that all is well. Confusion is actually a a sign or a bridge between the old and the new. So just stay with it. And if it helps, you can write down where your confusion lies, and we can talk about it later during the question and answers. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. So consider your part in innovation. What's yours to do? Write down the things that you have influence over. What needs to be solved? What needs to be addressed or changed? What do you have control over? What things do you have influence over? Think about what is your responsibility in this and what's not your responsibility. What are you willing to do? What's at risk if you don't do it? What do you see about this? What's the truth here? Some people might be saying, gosh, just tell me what to do and how to do it. Well, that's normal. Let that go. Just find a place where your head, your heart, and your gut are in alignment. You know the answer. You're doing okay. Okay. So now the next question is, what specific action will you commit to put into practice? Okay. When you think about these actions, is it aligned with your values? How committed are you to this new practice? You may even want to put it on a scale from 1 to 10 to ensure that it's important enough to commit to. If it's time bound, when does it have to be completed by? If it's a new practice, how often will you do it? Are there any obstacles that might prevent you from doing this? And if you need support, who will help you? Who will you reach out to? Just sit with that a bit. And you know what? Take a look at your list and just pick one from your list. What's the first thing you'll do? We realize we have a short time with you today. And this is an activity you may not be used to, but we encourage you to go back and look at your list after this session. And you know what? Refine it, add to it. And you may notice that new possibilities will emerge over the next day, next week. That's great. Let that all in. Okay. How's everybody feeling now? Let's do a check-in.
Did you see anything new? Quite a bit better, Matthew says. Good.
I'd like to hear that.
This is a good time to think about changes I'd like to see in our organization. Yes, Alex, everything is changing. And now is the time to do things that you might have not focused on in the past. Outbound focus for what needs to happen. Good work. Doing it will be easier said than done, Joe. Yes. Is there anything we could do to support you? Because now we've got time for questions. So is there anything we could do to support you to make it easier? Anything we need to talk about that would make it easier to do the thing that you put on your page? Gregory says it makes me feel about, maybe there's a word missing there, about what changes I want to see in me. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Many of you have read Brene Brown. She is a researcher about emotions and authenticity, how we can be our most authentic selves. And she defines what she calls her aspirational values. And in a way, when we asked you to look at your values, we were asking you to look at your aspirational values. You might not be living them yet, 100% of the time. None of us do. But if you can know that they are yours and understand that your frustration really doesn't come from other people or external environments, it comes from you not living according to your aspirational values, it will show you the changes you want to make in yourself and provide a path for how to do that. And that takes courage. That takes real guts. That's what Joseph Campbell would have called the hero's journey. That's like what every Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen character does in their arc, right? They learn to live their values. So we recognize that this is sort of simple, but not easy. But you might want to also ask yourself, would it be worth it to experiment with this new innovation and to see the way the world plays out when you do that? And Ashwin said it helped her separate different problems that may require separate independent solutions. Brilliant.
Love it. Love it.
Either the past with the present or A and B, when really A, B, and C have different characters, different people in the situations, and are actually independent things going on.
I love what Joe says here. My action item is to reward myself with stickers on the calendar on days where I recognize that I've lived some better habits of thought. What a great idea, great action.
I love that, Joe, because you're celebrating and you're savoring, which is actually another way to soothe the amygdala. When we can appreciate what we're doing right now, when we can recognize that we have been living our values or taking good care of ourselves, that begins an upward spiral in our energy. Like Donna said, it takes us from our amygdala and puts us in our prefrontal cortex. And that's where we really enjoy living. That's where the good stuff in life happens, is up there in that prefrontal cortex of the brain. So what else do we need to talk about here? What was your favorite part of this exercise, or what was your least favorite part? And also, if you have any questions about coaching, we would love to answer them, because we're sure that some of you think about becoming a coach, or how to know when it's time to take on a coach.
Okay.
Darby said the least was the discomfort that comes with the introspection. Isn't that the truth? But the reward is oh so sweet. But that was also the most helpful. Isn't that right? The human brain is designed to keep you safe, but not happy. So that discomfort of introspection, we don't want to face it because it feels like a form of threat or danger. But when we do, we realize, oh, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And that's when we can free up our energy to do new things. Matthew said, my favorite part was that it made me be honest with myself about what is happening and what needs to be done. Doesn't it feel good to tell the truth?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. It's such it's a game changer when we can be honest with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And truth, the world needs us, needs you to be honest with yourselves. Mm-hmm. At a time like this, when there's so much going on politically, socially, with a global pandemic, we need people who can see the truth and who are willing to act on it. It's a tremendous contribution to your companies, to your organizations, to your families, to the people around you, even the people working at the grocery store. Ashwin said, self-reflection is very hard for me, so I appreciate being walked through it. It's great to have a partner, isn't it? That's what the coaching world is all about. Mm-hmm. For me, on the Myers-Briggs, I'm an INTJ, if you've ever heard of that. And that means that I'm an extroverted thinker, even though I'm an introvert. So for me to talk out loud about the things I'm thinking is actually incredibly clarifying. And I find that to be true of a lot of developers, because there are a lot of developers who are also INTJs, although we're a very rare type. Ellie said, I enjoyed taking the time to be mindful, even though it is uncomfortable, and thinking through a problem with the perspective and honesty. Good job being honest with yourself, yes. Kevin said, introspection can be hard and uncomfortable if you're honest with yourself. Yeah, if you're not honest with yourself, sometimes it's easy. Mm-hmm. You're just still in the denial illusion, which you can do that, but then your personal development stops. That's the payoff. Yeah. How can we better coax others who are resistant to change to be more accepting of new ways of doing things? Alex, that is a great question. And it's kind of a two-sided answer. And Don, I'll let you weigh in on this too. 90% of what you need to do, Alex, is about who you are being into the situation rather than what you are doing. And I would invite you to cultivate what we call a non-anxious presence. So if you can come to a very uncomfortable situation or where people are resistant and you're not bothered by their resistance, and I mean truly, not pretending you're not bothered, but you can actually find a place where you're like, oh, their resistance means something to them. Because one of the fundamental tenets of being a coach is that every human behavior has a positive intention. It's like when little kids, they climb on their parents in the evenings. Why? Well, what they want is attention. They don't mean to be annoying. They don't mean to, make a tired parent feel upset. They need there's an inherent human need for attention there, and they're trying to get it met. So usually people's resistance is the same. It's guarding something for them, or there's something of value to them that they may not even be able to verbalize, but they're attached to it. So when we can see that about them and talk to them about that and surface that into the conversation, sometimes that's actually where the most incredible innovations come, because they're pointing to a real problem that needs to be addressed and factored into the solution. Does that help? Alex, I'd love to hear from you. Donna, what would you add?
I beautifully said, and what I would also add to that is you were pointing to creating some generous assumptions about the other person too. Like you said, everybody, the frustration really comes because we care so much too, and they believe in their thoughts and their ideas, but it's not personal. And if we can create some generous assumptions around that other person and then have that open and honest conversation, that's where some of the magic happens. Even if you...
What are some of the best generous assumptions that you use, Donna?
Excuse me?
What are some of the best generous assumptions that you use?
Mm-hmm. That person really cares about this situation. That person has positive intent. That person wants to see a change or a solution. That person believes so much in their product. There's got to be something around this.
I love Brene Brown again. She says one of her best positive assumptions is that if people are doing the best they can, and if you knew from the high authority that people were doing that this person who is annoying you so much, how would that change the way you behave? A very powerful one. And we know as coaches that people are whole and complete. People have their own answers. So sometimes too, we need to add some boundaries in there. It doesn't mean we should tolerate people's bad behavior. Okay, that's not what we're saying. If someone's being resistant, you don't have to just let that slide, but you want to be with it. So good, Alex, I'm glad that's helping. Thank you for asking that great question. Maria has that little survey there for you all to take, so please do that. And then Shane's got a great question. How do you suggest we stay the course? Should we do these practices presented here daily? Whenever we feel frustrated with something or another situation? Exactly, you read my mind. You could pay sweet attention to the things that were frustrating you. They are like a guide. They're like bumpers on the bowling lane, if you've ever played bumper bowling, and the bowling ball just keeps rolling toward the pins because you bump up against that thing, but it doesn't stop you. The natural tendency of the brain is to let us stop us. We'll make up a story about that thing, and we'll get into the story, and then we're off to the races, but we're not getting to the solution. So if you can make this a reflective practice, it will absolutely change your life. And even if you couldn't take time to be with what you're frustrated with every day, if you could take time to be with your values every day, whatever you wrote on that little list, you could do 3 more minutes of reflection on it and then put it on a sticky note by your mirror where you brush your teeth every day. And like, this is who I am. I'm courageous and kind and creative. That's me. That in and of itself would change your life.
And be intentional about how to demonstrate those values too. That's a game changer.
Yes. Because the world isn't going to stop. Maybe the global pandemic, maybe we'll find great solutions for that, but there will be something else. And then your families will have things, and then your body will age. So we want to learn to be with that physical reality. But the truth is, physical reality is impermanent, unpredictable, and it takes a lot of energy to get things done down here in physical reality. Those are the rules of the game. And they're never going to change. Michael said for addressing boundary and not tolerating bad behavior. Is there anything else about that we could talk about from a coaching perspective? How comfortable do you all feel with holding boundaries? Because I have to say, I'm coaching a team of developers right now and they don't like it. They back off and it really amplifies their frustration. It is a process, Joy, to learn to set boundaries. You're absolutely right. It's, and if you can think of boundaries as demonstrations of your values, right? And I don't know about you, but when I first heard the word boundaries, I thought it meant that they were rules. I like rules. They were rules that were set up to keep the bad stuff out. And what I've come to understand is no. I'm a good person and I have a lot to offer when my head and my heart are in the right place. So boundaries are responses to situations that help me keep my good energy in here. Person, it's about me, owning who I am and not being willing to be depleted, frustrated, irritated, and tolerating things that are not serving the situation. Boundaries are hard, Michael, and remembering them, what you will tolerate when they are being broken. Yeah, we shouldn't tolerate them being broken. I'm also very naturally accommodating, so is Donna. And it's such a benefit to be accommodating,
It is,
right, Donna?
but it's tough too. So recognizing that about yourself, we have to work that much harder to ensure that our boundaries are protected in a positive way.
Because accommodation can be a strength that goes too far, just like all strengths.
Okay.
All right. Well, for those of you who didn't hear it at the beginning, we want to share with you the official International Coach Federation definition of coaching. Coaching is a creative and thought-provoking process that inspires people to maximize their personal and professional potential. And good works, you got coached today. What else do you want to add, Donna?
I appreciate everybody's being here today, and because we know that this takes courage. This is this kind of work is not what we're used to doing. We're not used to just pausing and being with and reflecting. So, I really commend all of you for doing this work today. Congratulate yourselves. Good work. Okay.
Yes. And Donna and I, we are coaches. Obviously, if you need coaching, we are here for you. You can reach out to us. We're on LinkedIn and Facebook. And we also partner with an agile enterprise coach named Matt Kirilov. I'm sure many of you know him. And we teach a series of classes called Scrum Master to Coach. And it's to help anyone in agile environments, but especially Scrum Masters, to learn coaching skills so that you can make your work easier. And it's coming up October 22nd. We're going to do stack 1 and stack 3. You can do stack 2 and 3 at any time out of order, but you have to do stack 1 in order to be ready for the other 2. And we would love to see some of you there. It's available on Eventbrite, or you can go to scrummastertocoach.com to find the details. Thank you all.
If there's any questions along the way, or you want to revisit anything, please don't hesitate. Any one of us, we're happy to support.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you both. This was wonderful. Also, all the engagement we had in the chat was incredible. I think you have well over 100 comments, so appreciate all of that. Feel free to drop some of those links you were talking about upcoming coaching or your LinkedIn profile in the chat too. But otherwise, I will exit all of us off, and I hope to see you around the conference today. Amazing. Yeah, thank you both. This was really wonderful. Great way to start the day.